week since Delhi riots, 46 dead, over 200 injured. The Delhi police first failed to stop these riots. Now they're dragging their feet to find the key conspirators who plotted to burn Delhi. Now here's where things stand as we speak. About 369 FIRs have been registered. 44 of them also have sections under the Arms Act. FIRs registered by Cyber Cell are about 21, though they are not necessarily about spreading fake news or rumors. In all, we are given to understand about 100 people have been arrested, many more detained. However, out of these, not a single key conspirator has been identified for fanning the communal fire, for killing people, for bringing in the weapons, for bringing in the rocks, for really plotting all of this, for setting the capital on fire. To understand the extent of damage I'm talking about, viewers, here are some more numbers. 2,000 vehicles were torched. 79, if not more, 79 houses were burned down. 52 shops were gutted. 3 factories wiped off. 2 schools set ablaze, completely destroyed. Our team of reporters have been constantly bringing reports of destruction and the aftermath. In a latest report from Shiv Vihar, 2 schools were used by miscreants, literally like base camps, to propagate and spread fear and terror at that point. They not only destroyed the school, but also set it ablaze. Here is a report of how the work has now begun to rebuild it.
Schools were also one of the prime targets of the Reuters. In fact, we are reporting from one of these schools which was completely damaged, vandalized by the people who in fact made this school as one of their base camps. And from this school's building, here you can see from the terrace of this building, they were pelting stones, throwing bottles, and also doing firing. And slingshots they made, and with the help of slingshots they were throwing the petrol bomb. This way that they were doing, here you can see that the revamp work is going on. This is Rajdhani school, Rajdhani Public School, which is located in Shiv Vihar Chowk, because a lot of damage was happened in this particular zone. Here you can see those things which was vandalized, those things which were in fact charged up. They are now lying outside this school. However, the next school, which is DRP Public School, DRP School, this is another school which was also in fact damaged by the people, by the mobsters. And here you can see, we are just going inside to see what extent of damage had happened, and now the revamp work is going on. Labor is working right now after 4 days of whole destruction. Here you can see one of the labor is sitting. He is doing the cleaning work. However, the other staff members are also sitting over here. These must be the teachers who are sitting, these staff members. And here you can see the wooden frame has come, because completely these frames were also in fact damaged by the Reuters and the stone pelters. So this way the whole revamp work is going on, and it will definitely take time to in fact to heal this all the destruction that happened on the street. These are the 2 schools which were in fact completely gutted, completely damaged by the Reuters and mobsters. And people are in fact very much in the shock that how these people can also attack the schools where students from every sections study. With video journalist Junaid Alok for Mirror Now, Delhi.
Here's one more report. As many as 7 bodies have been recovered from a drain that runs through Gokulpuri, Chandbagh and Bhagirathi Vihar. It's about a kilometer stretch of a drain from which the bodies have been recovered. Take a look at this report.
We are reporting from Bhagirathi Gokulpuri area, and this is drain which we are talking about. This is 1 kilometer of a stretch we are talking about, and from Chandbagh to Bhagirathi and Gokulpuri. And in this 1 kilometer of a stretch, 7 bodies so far recovered from various places, various points and intersections. These people who are suspected to be killed and dumped into the drains. Remember, one of the IB officers' body was also recovered from Chandbagh. two bodies were recovered on 27th of March from this particular area where I am reporting from. Yesterday also 3 bodies were recovered, and one body today has already been recovered, and there is suspicions that more bodies might be lying, because it seems that several people were killed and they were thrown into this in these drains. Remember, lot of clashes were happening on the streets on these particular areas that include Gokalpuri, Bhagirathi Vihar and Chandbagh.
Inaction, in the ineptness and the sheer incompetency has put Delhi police in the dark, and more so because so many of those instigators, those giving those hate speeches, those giving those provocative speeches, are not even being asked questions. We still don't know who planned to get all of those guns there. We still don't know who planned to get all of those rocks, the petrol bombs over there. We still don't know where this man is. Tahir Hussain, councillor from Nehru Vihar. He's been suspended by his party. He's been accused of killing the IB official, but he's not been arrested. Kapil Mishra, BJP leader, accused of giving inflammatory speeches standing next to a cop, threatening of unimaginable consequences, not even being asked questions, no FIR yet. MOS Finance Anurag Thakur, no questions asked for Goli Maro slogan. In fact, Shah Rukh, one of the rioters who was caught on camera brandishing a gun, allegedly shot and 8 rounds, has not been arrested. Now, before we move on to the big debate, here is a bit of a breaking news coming in. And it's an interesting tweet that has been put out by the Prime Minister. And Prime Minister Modi is actually thinking of quitting social media. Yes, this is the tweet that he has just put out. This Sunday, thinking of giving up my social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Will keep you all posted. This tweet has left everybody a little shocked and a little surprised. Perhaps many's first thought will be if this is even real. But so far, there has not been a follow-up tweet. This tweet was put up about 10 minutes ago. 9 minutes to be precise. Vinay, your first thoughts? Here is the Prime Minister who's mastered the art of using social media, who has one of the biggest following in the world. He has such a huge following. His name is right there in the top 10. Is now thinking of quitting social media.
Yes, and I think if a tweet could trigger an earthquake, this is it. I mean, he has almost 54 million followers on Twitter.
Yes.
He's probably the second most followed leader in the world in terms of Twitter followers. And on every other indicator on Instagram or YouTube or even Facebook, Mr. Modi is probably the most followed leader in the world. And for him to actually announce that he may quit Twitter, and he's actually leaving a bit of a suspense by saying, will keep you posted, is as enormous an earthquake in its enormity as we can imagine, because Mr. Modi pioneered the art of bypassing regular media to communicate with people and electorate and use his social media account, which is how he has acted in the last 6 to 7 years. For him to say that is enormous, and I think there'll be enough and more talked about in the next couple of days or so on why he's chosen to do that. Is it because he's disenchanted with the medium? Is it because he's upset about something, or is it just that he wants to create a new talking point? Tough to say, but it is an earthquake.
It could not have been hacked.
I hope it's not been hacked, because that then raises a completely new set of questions.
Yes.
If the Prime Minister's social media accounts can be hacked, it's as enormous a story as it can be. But frankly,
it's now been over 10 minutes, and obviously it's got about 2,500 retweets already. People are wondering what's just happened here.
Oh, absolutely, and so are we. I mean, because this is the most cryptic thing that we've heard from the Prime Minister. He's usually a very straight-talking man. I mean, he says everything the way he sees it, even if it's not the most palatable. But this is, I think the headline that we're running on top of the screen, that this particular tweet has triggered a storm, is probably the most apt way of describing it. This will trigger not just a storm, it's an avalanche. And remember, even the social media giants per se will be quivering right now, because to have a man who's followed the maximum in the world announce that he's leaving it, is an enormous development. I mean, there's no question about that.
Yes, I just want to point this out, and Vinay also read it out earlier, that the Narendra Modi account is where this has come from. It's there are two accounts. One is the Narendra Modi account, then there is the PM account as well. And it's a Narendra Modi, it's the Prime Minister's own account, which has 53.3 million followers. 53.3 million followers. And he has just tweeted saying, this Sunday, thinking of giving up my social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll keep you all posted. I am sure even at this point of time, Vinay, Mark Zuckerberg is thinking, what just happened? And so is Jack Dorsey. They don't know what this is. There's been a huge fight in India about how Twitter treats followers, right-wing versus left-wing, and if that has something to do with it, or what is it that... but they're going to be wondering what just happened if it's Narendra Modi who's... and this is a genuine tweet. If he's genuinely tweeted that and he's genuinely considering it. Also for the media. You know, in the last 6 years, social media has been even often the government's preferred way of communicating news developments.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he was the pioneer in that sense. It started just about a year ahead of the 2014 elections when he took to the social media with a vengeance almost and used it as a very effective communication tool. And I think in the last 6.5 or 7 years or so, he's just strengthened it even further. And the entire party and the government establishment now uses the social media as a very effective communication tool. I think most of our analysis about what the Prime Minister says or does or doesn't do comes from the way he puts out stuff on social media. Remember, he's also saying that this coming Sunday. Now, remember, the one awaited event on every Sunday that Prime Minister does is the Man Ki Baat. So, he said that this Sunday I'm thinking of doing it. So, clearly there is something. And he said this at the start of the week. So, he's given all of us a 6-day heads up on his intent of quitting the social media. Now that is pregnant with meaning, and I'm really wondering what that could be, that he's given all of us a 6-day head start to think about why he's thinking of quitting every single platform on the social media. Remember, he's made a point to mention Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. He's not left out anything. That's very, very, very intriguing. I mean, I don't think we've had a more intriguing tweet coming from the Prime Minister's account as this one in a long, long time. I mean, in fact, I can't remember the last time such an intriguing tweet has been sent by Mr. Modi.
Well, let me also, in fact, because Mr. Javed Ansari is, which is supposed to be part of our debate on the Delhi violence, but since he's with us, Mr. Ansari, quick view from you as well about this tweet.
Well, I'm at a loss. I really like Vinay was saying that it's very difficult to fathom what has provoked this kind of response from the Prime Minister. We'll have to wait and see, because I've learned in all these years, for the last 6 years covering Mr. Modi, that it's hazardous to try and second guess him, because he always tends to surprise you. Whether it is on government formation or nominating, on choosing chief ministers or whatever. And so therefore I will go by the standard operating procedure which I've learned the hard way, which is to wait for things to unfold, because it's very difficult to predict what is going on in the back of his mind.
No, Javed, I had a question for you. Why do you think he's given us all a 6-day advance notice? And that's also equally unusual.
While you were on air and speaking, I got a WhatsApp message from a political acquaintance of mine. He says, now this is yet another diversionary tactics. I'm not buying into this, because 1 week is a very long time, but you know, there are people who would believe that the Prime Minister is a master when it comes to managing headlines, and this perhaps is yet another attempt on his part to do so. Now, whether that indeed is true, I am not so sure, because one should never take lightly what the Prime Minister of the country does or says. So therefore, we'll have to wait and see.
See, between you and me, Javed, that's the first thing that came to my mind as well, whether it's a very effective and a very smart diversionary tactic. But he's put his name personally into creating a diversionary tactic. I mean, that's a big ask, no? I mean, he's put his name on it. In fact, his intent will obviously be questioned.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, and if, assuming come Sunday, he says that, okay, I'm allowed, he allows himself to be persuaded to take it back, then it will give rise to further questions. People will say that, this was all a part of the strategy.
Well, I can
so either which way, it's really hazardous. I would hold my counsel, because it's very difficult to second guess what Prime Minister Modi does. It really is.
For sure, Mr. Ansari and Vinay, that we will for sure see lots of polls. We'll perhaps be tempted and have one ourselves, asking people if they believe the Prime Minister should quit social media. And if people will start quitting these social media accounts, you know, at this point, there are 101 things that come to one's mind because everybody's so surprised it could possibly just be our government coming up with its own social media version.
So I have a tougher question for Javed
Okay.
because he's gotten away with the easy answers. The tougher one is this, that in the last 7 years or so, Mr. Modi has very neatly avoided the traditional way of communicating via the media to his to his voters and to his electorate. If he indeed goes through with this, you know, the plan that he seems to suggest, do you see an increase in his formal media communication via the traditional routes?
Look, he will only communicate. He's going to. It's his personal account which he's threatened to discontinue with. The Prime Minister's account will continue. So whatever, if and when he wants to say something to us, they will probably use the Prime Minister's official account. Otherwise, we'll have to just make do. Because if the, you know, I'd be very surprised actually, now that I've had time to digest this a bit, I'd be very surprised if the Prime Minister does not go through with this. He will still be able to communicate. He's got the Prime Minister's handle. Plus, being Prime Minister, he occupies the bully pulpit. So, and almost every Sunday, every weekend, he's out campaigning, out attending functions, delivering speeches. So that way his communication will continue.
Okay, I just want to point out that the
yes, and I do believe that.
Yes, go ahead,
and I do believe that there are lots of others who actually should quit or should be made to quit social media. The Prime Minister is not one of them.
Okay, Mr. Ansari, point well taken. You know, perhaps one would want Prime Minister to tweet once more and give us a little bit more clarity in exactly what is he thinking and why is he deliberating on this. I can tell you from the comments that I'm reading right now, and obviously this tweet has taken Twitter by storm. For a man who has about 53.5 million followers just on Twitter, to put out something like that, the response is huge and it's building up. There is no trending hashtag so far, but I'm pretty sure in the next few minutes there will be one, and we will keep getting you more updates. We'll keep a very close eye on his account as well to see if more comes our way. Very intriguing, and the decision will be this Sunday, whether or not he gives up on his social media accounts on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube. That's the list right there. Let's get back to the big conversation at hand for now. Now, before this breaking news came in, we were giving you a status check of what's happening in the national capital in the aftermath of the violence. It's been over a week now. Unfortunately, I don't have additional information to give you about who the key conspirators of Delhi riots were and when will they be behind bars. And so I just want to understand from our experts this evening that is this a case where we can ever see? There have been many instances in the past where riots and ugly clashes and violence has unfolded and taken place, and we've not really seen justice being delivered. Or does it usually take this long? What about those who've been giving provocative speeches? Will they ever be questioned? Will they ever be held accountable for the hate that unfolded in Delhi? Some of the questions. Let's also say good evening to Yashovardhan Azad, former IPS officer, Justice Saldana, former judge with the Bombay High Court, and Mr. MN Singh, former Commissioner of Police of Mumbai. Thank you all for patiently waiting by, and my apologies that we are starting this late. Mr. Singh, let me begin with you. You know, just to understand how do the investigators go about probing a riot and who could be the mastermind and the key conspirators? Mr. MN Singh, good evening to you. Can you hear me?
Kata. Yes, you have just come back, yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
It will take nothing less than an astrologer.
Go ahead, sir.
It will take nothing less than an astrologer to really say who is the key conspirator or what is all this happening. You see, whether there is a conspiracy or not, I would leave it to the police investigators to tell us. The truth will come out only when the cases are investigated, and we can't really say. But I feel that this word conspiracy is being used rather very euphemistically, and all political parties are blaming each other. The ruling party is saying that the opposition has started this, the opposition is saying the BJP has started. I heard a very senior Congress leader saying that the government itself is the conspirator. Now, this kind of a thing. But one thing that I know is that the Delhi riots has its roots in politics of the country, number one. Number two, whether there is a conspiracy or not, I don't know. But going by the large cache of weapons, etc., like acid and petrol bombs and stones and things like that, and the extensive scale of the violence, and the way the bodies have been dumped in nalas and things like that, it looks like that a lot of planning had gone into it. And in fact, it seems that the people were preparing for this kind of an eventual explosion of violence, and that is what has happened. And I'm not surprised that it has happened, because when this logjam goes on for over 2 months, and people from all political parties almost come and make incendiary speeches, explosive speeches, no action is taken by the police, then this was almost waiting to happen, and this is what has happened. To sum it up, I would say that these riots are pre-planned riots, going simply by the extensive scale of the violence, the weapons used, and the damage caused. But whether there was a conspiracy, if conspiracy, then by whom? As I said, somebody says the government itself is conspirator, government says the opposition is conspirator, now somebody says the Pakistan is conspiring. I think this is being very euphemistic, and I think we leave it to the police investigator to come out with the clear answer as to who is the conspirator, if at all there was a conspirator. But it's very unfortunate. My worry is that the situation is still not normal. The violence in Delhi has its root cause, has links with the Shaheen Bagh. I am not saying that the people have no right to protest, but when the people of the city is inconvenienced to this extent for so long, people are going to get irritated, and added to that is all these inflammatory speeches being made. I think this was waiting to happen, but it may happen again unless the political parties come together and decide enough is enough. I'm happy that the new police commissioner has started off well. He's trying his best to contain the violence. He's in touch with the public. He's in touch with the earlier commissioner of police was never visible. He was hiding somewhere, but this man is going out into the streets and meeting the common man and the leaders and all that. My appeal as a citizen of the country and not as an ex-policeman, that all political parties must come together. This agitation must abate, and the core issue must be, it is there in the Supreme Court. Let us wait for the judgment of the Supreme Court. Whatever judgment comes, let us abide by that.
Okay, in fact, let me ask Justice Saldana, for his views. Justice Saldana, there is no denial of the fact that this was pre-planned. The fact that there was an unprecedented use of guns, at least 50 people who landed up at the hospital had gunshot wounds. There was arson at a large scale, excessive use of petrol bombs. The fact that, we had videos of rocks and stones being brought in trucks. And the government, even while the violence was on, the Home Ministry came out and told us it's pre-planned conspiracy. Then how is it that after a week as well, we don't know any of the conspirators?
You are right, Tanvi, with regard to your initial observation that there is absolutely no doubt about the fact that this was pre-planned. Absolutely no doubt about the fact that it was a conspiracy, because everything right up from it's not only the question of planning, the more important part of it was the manner in which it was executed. That has also gone on like clockwork. But what is really disturbing and what is really shocking is that over about 72 hours of violence in the national capital, that not one person, not one of the culprits has either been apprehended or identified. Now this is something that has never happened. I don't think it's ever happened anywhere in the world. Now, was there something deeper? Why were the police? See, there has been a lot of criticism to the effect that the police were ineffective, the police were inactive, etc., etc. Personally, I don't share that view. My view of the matter is that the police were held back. Now, if that is the case, then an entirely new dimension emerges. You see, what was the reason for this? Who was doing this? Or which of the authorities or which of the powers? Because you see, police inaction is a minor issue. Sometimes the police are late, sometimes they are inactive, sometimes they take sides. But not over a period of 72 hours where there is absolute riot, where there's murders, where people are being killed, schools are being attacked. It was almost like a situation of genocide. And look at the level of damage. I mean, you just count saying that 46 people have lost their lives. My view of the matter is that at least 46 lakhs have been ruined for life. See, if your homes are gone, if you are terrorized, if your businesses have gone, if you have nowhere to go and stay or nowhere to attend to, all these palliative relief measures,
right?
This is not going to help very much. It's a very, very, very serious matter, and the question is that how do we get to the bottom of this? Now,
yes.
Mr. Singh did refer to one aspect. He said, look, perhaps the Shaheen Bagh incident pushed people to a level of fury, or pushed people over the brink. But I don't think you would see this type of reaction to it.
No, but if there are those who are going to instigate people,
Delhi altogether.
Justice Saldana, if there are those who will instigate people, if there are those who will constantly say this is a problem, and we should not be taking this as a, why should we be taking this silently? We should hit back, we should respond, we should assert ourselves. And we saw a number of such comments being made in the run-up to this violence. None of those people are being asked questions this evening. None of those people are even being, are even facing any kind of inquiry or even an FIR. And that, I feel, is problematic. Where are we going to start about holding accountability if we don't even question those netas? Mr. Azad, what's your own sense? Will we ever see some amount of justice? We've seen far too many of such instances of riots and violence where nothing has come of it.
Of course,
in a situation
justice
like
will be meted out.
Justice Saldana, I'll come back to you in just a bit. Just getting a quick comment from Yashovardhan Azad.
Yes, sorry.
I'm sure justice is going to be meted out. Cases have already been registered. And I don't subscribe to the view that for 72 hours police did not act and there was a huge conspiracy to kind of stop them. I think there is a lot of clarity in how this riot has occurred. The situation was building up, and I agree with Mr. Singh when he says that the Shaheen Bagh was creating a lot of discomfort and inconvenience to the people. There was a sizable faction of pro-CA people who wanted to come out on the streets, and there was an igniting point when the two processions clashed. Now, here was the time when the police should have moved in with all its might, with full guns blazing, taking control of the area, even firing if it was necessary. And that is exactly the first principle which is taught to you in any police training book on communal violence. That time when the leadership dithered, and that is which led to a complete communal clash. Now, you don't need a single conspirator, or you don't need somebody, a Daud kind of a man, to give directions to do all this. In all these colonies, when the situations are building up, when you're living cheek by jowl, you make preparations even either for your defense or for your offense.
Correct.
Now, the another point is, as far as the guns you're talking about, you know, in 2018, almost every day, once before the elections, before the MP elections, there are almost 10 guns which are being seized almost every day. These were illegal arms which are coming across the border. And I think in 2018, Lord Delhi has recovered about 10,000 of such illegal firearms. So what I'm saying is, what is happening as a matter of local policing every day, there is a build-up in situations like this. Now, it is the most important point you said. What about the demagoguery? What about the people who are making these incendiary speeches? Now, the Honorable High Court had a chance.
Yes.
And they gave it, they threw the ball back into the court of the police, saying that, you know, you see the videos and see. And next day, then they said you take 4 weeks. I wish the High Court had directed.
I wish so
because
too,
they had,
yes. In fact,
all
Mr.
the matter
Azad, you raise
before
a very
them.
valid point. If I may just come
Because,
in here.
you know,
And just you know, bring this to the notice of Vinay
Sure.
as well. Vinay, he raised the point about FIR against Kapil Mishra for the speech, and the High Court had the opportunity, but just adjourned it for another month. The fact is that the Delhi police is not even looking at it. We had a reporter today, Vinay, who questioned and cornered the Delhi police top cop. They're not even considering it right now.
Yes, and that's why I think, look, in any such event, we can all look at the glass half empty or the glass half full. Unfortunately, I am the one who's currently going to look at it from the glass half empty point of view. And I'll tell you 3 reasons. Any investigation or any police force has one set of responsibility of law and order and another set of investigation. I do not want to get into the issue of skills, because I believe Delhi police is very skillful enough to investigate cases. But riots are a very different ballgame altogether. And there are 3 very learned subject experts here, so I don't want to treat too much onto their territory, but I can tell you that the toughest of the cases actually is mob violence, especially when it involves thousands of people. There are issues of identification of people. There are issues of exaggeration by witnesses. There are issues of, you know, from section 141 IPC to 160, there are 20 sections of the IPC alone which can be used. You can actually interpret many activities during a riot, from burglary to robbery to murder to attempt to murder, as separate cases. There are separate Arms Act cases. It's a whole range. It's half the IPC which can be used in a riot scenario to book cases against people. And unfortunately, the diligence that is required for almost, 250 odd FIRs to be investigated, then there'll be issues in the court whether they should be, the culpability should be taken singularly or should be taken jointly. Many times these issues have raised in the court. The trouble is that while the Joint Commissioner today refused to answer a question about Kapil Mishra specifically, in the Northeast district alone, every single police station has a list of several gangs that operate, and obviously any criminal activity will require an anti-social element to participate in it. I haven't heard from any police officer so far how many such gangs have been rounded up for even questioning. Now, you need to collect evidence, and in riot cases, the evidence quality has to be even more superior. You have to record hundreds of statements. You have to recover hundreds of hours of footage from various sources. It's a very painstaking job. Now, I know that 2 DCPs have been deployed for it, but even the basic questioning has not started of the gangs. Now, what is to believe that in the period that we are losing, the time that we are losing, a lot of evidence is getting destroyed. Phones are being removed, messages are being deleted. They can be recovered later on, but they're being destroyed. All kinds of things can happen. I haven't heard of a single gang which is operating out of Northeast Delhi, and there are lots of them who are being rounded up or who are being booked or who are being questioned. There are only random people who have been right now picked up, 100 odd arrests, 900 odd have been quote unquote detained, which of course it's not legal. They'll be let off after 24 hours. So there is a lot to be said in terms of the investigation of this case, which I'm afraid as of today, in my opinion, leaves a lot to be desired.
Well, we do know that a new police commissioner has come in. We do know that, you know, they've brought in several other senior officers now to look into this case. But Mr. Javed Ansari, if the government knew a week ago this was a pre-planned conspiracy, shouldn't we have had a clearer picture of who and why and how many of those people have been caught?
Look, everybody on the panel agrees that this was a riot foretold. I've had occasion to visit this riot-affected area twice, and even I agree with everybody when they say that this was a riot foretold. What measures were taken to preempt it? I'm not an police expert, but I'd like to assume that it's easier to prevent a riot. It's easier to prevent a riot than to control it once riot is taken. I also refuse to believe that Delhi police is incompetent. It has some very competent people. Yesterday, when Delhi was agog with rumors, there was all kinds of speculation. I was at a dinner. I had to leave dinner midway and rush home because, we didn't know what was happening. Delhi police was out on the street. It controlled the situation. It ensured that nothing untoward happened. Why was this not done 3 days earlier? Why was the NSA deployed 72 hours after Delhi had burned, scores of people had lost their lives? If indeed it was the case that Mr. Amulya Patnaik was not adequately equiting himself in the job, why was not the NSA deployed earlier, sent earlier, and why did the NSA have to be sent? Who was holding the Delhi police back is the substantial question which Justice Saldana raised. I'd like an answer. What prevented the Delhi police from acting earlier, and what prompted them to act in the manner that they did subsequently?
Mr. MN Singh, actually, I wanted your view on that. The Delhi police, the force that guards the national capital, that is responsible for law and order in the national capital. In your own sense, was somebody holding it back, or did it just become a case of bad leadership? And I'll get Mr. Azad in on that as well.
Well, my views on this subject is, I must say, is very strong, I must say. Let me tell you, almost everybody, every system of the government, the administrative, the judicial, the political, the entire edifice of the government machinery totally collapsed and failed. And it was badly exposed, including the media and the social activists and things like that. I will begin. Of course, I say that the police miserably failed. Whatever be the compulsions of the police commissioner must have put his foot down and acted firmly, acted in the manner that was expected of a professional police officer. That he didn't do. It was a leadership crisis as far as. Now the police force of Delhi is very good. I agreed. I know that. But the leadership of the Delhi police was very bad at that point of time. Now why? Maybe that the police commissioner's hands were tied. Now who tied his hands? Government? Maybe. But every cross-section of opinion, let us not forget that this was a political issue largely. A particular law has been enacted by the government, by the parliament, which became a matter of controversy and contest, and all shades of opinion were being expressed, including opinions coming from the judiciary.
Yes.
Saying that the protest is the democratic right of the people of the country. Yes, who doesn't know it? I know it. Then, that the dissent is the spirit of the constitution. Very well said. Then to say that criticism of the government is the soul and wit and allow this. Well, damn it, may I ask these gentlemen, which law or which constitution of the country allows people to sit on the road, block the traffic, disrupt the public life, totally paralyze and create such a confusion, such a crisis and such an angry atmosphere? Now, is this also constitution? Does the constitution permit people to go and occupy road not for a day or two, but for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months or more? Now, I'll therefore, if you would ask me, the police commissioner's hands were tied not only by political class, but also by cross-section of the public opinion pouring in the whole boil and creating a feeling that if he acted the way he ought to have acted, probably he will be hauled up. Now, this is what has actually led to this crisis, and when all kinds of incendiary speeches were being made, police failed to record a case. Why? As Mr. Azad rightly said, the High Court should have ordered the police. Why ordered? High Court should have called the explanation of the police commissioner for not registering the office.
So the High Court went to the extent, Mr. Singh, the High Court went to the extent of making the police watch the video.
Yeah, the poor judge was
police to record an FIR.
Yes, the High Court went to the extent of making the police watch the video. And then the
Here
situation
was a
changed.
gentleman, somebody
And the
called
poor judge was shifted
somebody called
overnight.
Mishra is making a speech before a deputy commissioner of police. A deputy commissioner is present when somebody is making some foul speeches.
Yes.
He could have registered, he could have become the complainant. The law permits him. But
Absolutely.
He didn't do.
But I'll
I
tell you
don't know
this,
what
Mr.
was
MN
his
Singh,
compulsion.
today
Maybe he was probably asked to go slow.
was interviewing the Joint Commissioner of Police, and he asked him this question. Our reporter asked him this question, and he simply said, well, that's not the whole video, because in the rest of the video, you will see the same cop is trying to disperse the crowd. So the police doesn't think it's even necessary to question the cop or use him as a complainant in that case and probe Kapil Mishra. That's the unfortunate part. The police is not even considering it. The court has already adjourned it for a month. Neeraj Kumar, former Commissioner of Police, Ajay Raj Sharma, former Commissioner of Police, and MB Kaushal.
Delhi police.
Yes, there are just Mr. MN Singh, just one point I wanted to make.
Accused for action when it.
I know what you're going to say. Delhi police was accused of action when it came to Jamia, and now
overaction.
Yes.
Delhi police was accused when it did not act. Where do you leave the Delhi police? Where do you leave the police?
Well, that can't be an excuse when 46 people are dead.
Including judiciaries.
That cannot be the excuse when 46 people are dead.
Law and order problem.
Mr. Singh, I will disagree with you. That cannot be the excuse when 46 people are dead.
I'm not trying to defend the police.
Then from where I stand, I see the Delhi police hitting out at young students.
But you must also appreciate under what situation the police were acting.
Okay, but I don't know what the instructions were. I will not blame the policemen on the ground.
Don't forget that
sure.
we have lost 2 of our officers.
Yes.
Don't forget that
yes.
we have lost 2 of our officers.
And which is why I will not blame the men on ground. But they were supposed to be given instructions that were not given to them. 3 former Delhi police commissioners have slammed the top leadership of the Delhi police. Mr. Azad, you wanted to make a point.
2 pertinent points I think Mr. Ansari made. The first was, why didn't the police act on that particular day when the whole thing was ignited? And then what happened in those 72 hours when again they remained inactive? As I have affirmed earlier, there is no question of any higher body trying to restrain the police, because that is the time when Mr. Trump's visit was here. And I don't think any government would like to advertise its capital being, burnt by unruly mobs. So I don't believe in this theory. Handling communal incidents is a very, very serious matter. And it's only the top leaders who actually go into firefighting. I have been in most of the communal districts in Madhya Pradesh, and I've realized that in the first 3 hours, if you don't control the communal situation, it goes out of hand. And once it goes out of hand, the number of boots on ground are never sufficient. The policemen will always be scared of being lynched, and you will not be able to control the inner violence. It's an operational issue. Now, when the thing happened, immediately the police did not do anything. That is the fault of the leadership. Let me tell you another thing. The government should have appointed a new commissioner, the incumbent, and you would realize that a man with a fixed tenure of 2 years will obviously have a more proactive approach and would be able to secure the capital better. Secondly, on Trump's visit, on the eve of Trump's visit, it was very well known that the situation was building up. So all those additional battalions which were sent later by the Ministry of Home Affairs should have been sent earlier, because that would have sent the right message. Third, in a situation like this, when you go out with full blazing guns to control a communal violence, all your Vajra vehicles and the other equipment should be on full display. This was not done. Once the situation went out of hand, on the second day or the third day,
yes,
it was difficult for the policemen even to enter.
Yes.
Because of the fear of getting
well,
lynched.
Mr. Azad,
and by the time the battalion came, it was already 72 hours.
Okay, you're a better judge. You are a better judge of that. Mr. MN Singh is a better judge of how to control situations like this. I'm just going to put it out there that when Mr. Doval landed there and went on one Padyatra, it took us less than 18 hours to bring everything under control. And since then, there hasn't been any other instance of violence. Fact of the matter is, while Delhi and parts of Delhi may still be on the edge and there may be some tension, and there's a lot of rumor mongering and fake news that's going around, We still need some answers from the Delhi police. If we knew this was a pre-planned conspiracy, who were the mastermind? Who are the key conspirators? When are you going to catch them? What about the instigators? You have to make them accountable. Otherwise, this next time the same situation will unfold again. We need to learn our lessons and we need to hold people accountable. 46 people have died. The worst riots that Delhi has seen since 1984. Some answers have to be given. I apologize to our panelists for cutting short this debate, but we had a bit of a breaking news earlier in the show, which is why it was a curtailed conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.